Hello, baby.
I was crazy once.
I'm thinking of a number.
I consider myself a student
Okay.
of so many things. You know what I mean? Like, Ethan Wong, present and accounted for. That's me.
I'm in the back with a fucking dunce cap on. I'm the
Don't
dunce.
Do they put the dunces in the back? I thought they put them in the front and they face the corner because it's supposed to be like a humiliation thing.
I thought
Oh,
they
I
face
guess that makes sense.
towards the I think it's worse when you face towards the class.
Kind of sad that they take the dunces and make it impossible for them to pay attention to teacher.
Yeah, I have this I can't. I'm not gonna share it. I'm not gonna share it because I'll tell you guys afterward. But I just see. I love being reminded of things. This is also just applies to the topic we're gonna talk about. But I was a camp counselor, and as a camp counselor, you gotta discipline your little campers. And I'm not gonna say
Jesus. The way you said that.
And I'm gonna I was like, I think I did like a dunce cap thing, and it's kind of like. I think in the moment I realized, is public humiliation good actually? But I haven't. Well, I'm a student of life and of everything, but I haven't been in like a classroom. I don't know how we discipline kids anymore. Do you make them? I must not tell
They
lies.
probably fucking give them the woke award or something now. If you're bad,
Yeah, look at
give
this
them a
kid.
little
He's
ribbon
woke.
that says "I am woke."
the zero Riz ribbon.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, zero Riz. That's
Have
actually
you
the
guys
worst
seen
one.
the
Negative
Judge Jack
social
things where he's
credit.
wearing like a blue ribbon that's like botted likes award or something like that?
No, I don't know what that is.
Well, that's what we're giving kids these days.
Okay. What the fuck is up with
In
kids these
class,
days?
they sort you into houses like Hogwarts, but it's like, are you a Chud Jack? Are you a Chad?
House
Are you-
skibbity.
Yeah, exactly.
Hell yeah. I love Skibbity Toilet. There's a good picture of Ivan, and he's holding I think he's holding like a pop thing. I don't know if you guys saw it, but he's like, oh! He's like doing a little
Yeah.
soy face action. Not to
Okay,
out
how about-
Ivan on the podcast here, but
How
also,
about this on stream?
you meet him in real life. You're going to see it. Anyway, yeah?
I'm gonna
What?
see it. How about this on stream? We just watch all of Skibbity Toilet on stream.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
mean,
a
this
5-minute stream.
Yeah.
This is the last episode of the big time. Well, not specifically, but this is the last one of the year. So next
That's
year,
right.
we're talking Skibbity. We're talking...
Toilets.
We're talking toilets, actually.
We're talking feastables.
Yeah.
I don't know what else is on
Old.
the internet. I feel like this is like the last 2 years are the first years where I've like straight up been like old. Like I'm like not.
You're on
I
the
see
beach
things
that
on
makes
the
you
internet.
old, but you're already old when you get there. So
Yeah, but I'm seeing things on the internet. I'm like, oh, this isn't for me. Like,
It's all for me.
it's actually kind of awesome. I'm so happy about it.
I know this is coming out later than this event, but apparently on November 14th, Throwing Fits is having a party. Oh, I guess that's what I'm doing Thursday now, so that's on the list
Stay.
at Mohawk. And I guess when you listen to this episode, you're gonna see photos of it. So we'll let you know if it becomes a total disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Disaster. You guys aren't. No, I mean Spencer wouldn't know what that is, but that's a little thing I like to call Happy Slip, the Filipino American
okay.
sketch
Slip.
series with one person. Going back to the child disciplinary thing, did you guys ever have like the wall, like where? So there's this, we have the big building and it faces the playground, and so if you were, if you did something, you would have to. Oh, you got 5 minutes on the wall, so you have to sit there back against the
during-
wall.
I
and
feel
you just,
like we
you
maybe
just
had
watch.
that.
You just watch everyone having
During
fun out
recess.
there. During
Yeah,
recess,
you would
yeah.
we would have the wall, and you would get your name on the board too. So it's like,
Oh yeah, your
everybody
name is on the
knows-
board with the time of how long you're gonna be on the wall.
yeah. So it's like if it says like Ethan 5 and then MJ like 10 and then so on and so forth.
And Spencer, you have a whole hour on the wall actually
Yeah.
because you're the worst one.
Yes.
It's just blank because you get the whole time on the wall.
Yeah. It's yeah. There's no time limit. It is the whole time elapsed of recess. And that's kind of like publicly
Yeah.
it's like public humiliation. It's like the stocks kind of, right? That's the whole like you're on there. And you're just like forcing everyone. I mean, I guess us kids, we're not the other kids who are free to play, they're not like throwing tomatoes at you at the stocks.
Are we
or
stealing
whatever.
like bad kid valor right now? I was such a goody two shoes.
That's actually also true actually.
Yeah.
Did you guys get like moved around, like the seating charts because you talked to your friends?
No. I was so polite.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, just me.
When they say goody two shoes are like bad kids, is it because they're only wearing one shoe?
Because they're and
Like
is
in
that
a
like
cartoon?
and is that also like kind of like socioeconomic like oppression, like oh you're
Yeah.
a bad kid because you can only afford one shoe, like you're
Yeah.
destined to be bad because you're too poor.
or
Yeah.
Maybe this whole class thing was a bad idea actually.
yeah, or your shoes were like not new or like like not in good
Oh, yeah.
shape. So you do have two shoes, but they're just
Well, it's
Bad
goody
two
two shoes,
shoes.
baddie one two. What baddie one shoe?
Betty want to? I'm gonna write that down.
Write it down. Baddie one two.
Yeah,
Yeah, there. Okay, that's going in my next suit actually.
that's good. Betty.
Hey, suit supply. Hey, Atelier Fugue. We're gonna put this on there.
how do you feel
We should do
about
something-
monogramming
I haven't
socks?
seen the new
Yeah?
suit supply stuff, but I guess we should talk about maybe this could be in our freeform episodes next year. But man, I guess we need to talk about their fucking
rebrand
upgrade.
Yeah, and their crazy rules that we shouldn't really know about. We can't really talk about those things. Maybe but whatever. And we're all teasing what the next year is. We're excited, guys. It's not there's not going to be as much. We're gonna have instead of one topic, we're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff, and
Yeah.
we're also gonna be
It's
careful.
gonna be a
not
grab
to-
bag.
Yeah,
Rapid
we're also
fire.
gonna make sure that we don't talk about too much in the first episode because we still need content for the rest of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, welcome to Sound Direction, a Menswear podcast without the stuffiness. Last full episode of the year. Welcome. I am Ethan M. Wong.
I'm Spencer DSO.
And I am MJ.
Thank you guys for being here. And
You're
it's
welcome.
funny that this yeah okay. What's funny is that this topic kind of fits in with the last episode of the year. I think it wasn't going to be this. It was going to be outfit repeating, which also would have worked as like a nice end cap to this second or third
Saga.
season of Sound Direction, which lasted like 2 years or 3 years. But today we're going to talk about all the things we learned from menswear, specifically, or I guess more in depth, of the non-specifically menswear things that we've learned from being into this little hobby. Because I feel like if there's been a theme of the last couple of years, it's been that we've kind of dived into like our philosophy and our approach to life and creativity and how we've progressed. And I think a lot of that is due to 10 or so years ago, at least for me and Spencer, getting into wearing ties and sport coats and hats, and how we're all fuller people today because of it.
Because
And
of all the fucking food we ate.
yeah, clothes food.
Yeah. I'm eating close.
Yeah, eat this.
Yeah.
Eat my shorts. Actually, Bart
Oh,
Simpson,
man.
El
Eat my
Barto.
shorts.
Yeah,
Baruto.
Cowabunga. Hello, Bart. Hello,
good.
Bart. Thank you.
We'll just do a whole episode of Simpsons impressions.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Spencer, could you do one of your favorite ones? Actually, the arrest one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lisa. And then he goes, but Dad. That's kind of like Marge, but Lisa.
Howby. I can't even do my voice.
Howby.
I was just saying, I don't know
Marge.
if it's because I don't know if it'll show up, but because we all have like noise suppression on, kind of, or Discord does that. When you get scraggly, it distorted it even crazier, Spencer. But obviously we're recording and going to a different thing, so it's like the people at home are going to hear it normally, but we heard
There's
it.
probably going to
fucking
be like
crazy.
an episode about this in like 5 years when they like catch up to like, I don't know, like 2019 culture or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're like an episode of The Simpsons where they all start hanging out on Discord and Marge sounds fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to get too off topic. Every time I watch a clip from New Simpsons, it's sad. I'm like, you're all dying.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey Peter, isn't Family Guy still going too?
Family Guy's going strong.
Family Guy's good actually.
Yeah.
But anyway, the impetus for this episode was a couple months ago, I think, or maybe it could have been a year ago. I can't find it. It doesn't matter. But there was this video of this guy who was talking about menswear, and I guess he owns a made to measure brand, and it was all of right wing conservative, maybe even alt right kind of rhetoric and everything about how civilization, menswear is about preserving Western civilization and tradition and blah blah blah, and that always that's not something that's new. Obviously, there's been a lot of YouTubers over the years who have done stuff like that. A lot of blogs and and unfortunate people that we've met have also had that kind of philosophy, and it always stuck with me because I've had the opposite thing happen. Where instead of reinforcing specific Western or imperialist values, and diving deep into this kind of rigid, pragmatic, very social Darwinism kind of approach here. I feel like I've really opened my mind and become a lot more progressive, to the point of going off, not off the deep end per se, but just go, whatever, going to the left, where menswear has been kind of a big factor into that, and and that's what made me say, hey, we should talk about how menswear has taught us in that way. And of course there's other stuff too, but it's just so interesting. I mean, if you guys have listened to our 2-part interview with Young Chomsky, I think that's also a good indication there, where we're also, I kind of shared how surprised I am. We're all, it's, I don't know how you don't get more progressive or leftist or whatever, or also just expand your mind into expression and art and seeing clothes as this kind of just this mode of this medium of reflecting yourself and your values and everything like that. And I guess these people do that too, but it's just so interesting, and that's why I wanted to talk about it on this podcast. And just because menswear is really just more than just putting on a suit and tie to go to work, especially if you are younger, and especially if you are working in a creative industry or you don't really have an office job. It really is just this other area of creation. And so that's what we're going to talk about today on the podcast. But first, let's talk about the really basic things that menswear has taught us. And I think number one, it helps you, being into menswear helps you buy things better.
Oh yeah.
I think at the very least, you're more critical about stuff,
And it's about everything.
Yeah. I mean, you go at the very least, you go from being, oh, I need a shirt. So you buy any shirt from JCPenney to okay, I need a linen camp collar shirt because I want something casual and it's summertime and I need this, I want to be able to wear it untucked. I want to have a retro vibe or whatever. That's kind of the biggest thing there. It just teaches you to be more intentional with your purchases.
Yeah, and it teaches you, I don't know, about attention to detail in a way that I didn't appreciate before. It teaches you about quality. And obviously the things that mean quality in menswear don't necessarily apply to everything else out there, but I don't know. I feel like it gives you a relatively good eye to appreciate and to notice quality in other things.
Yes, no, absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of funny. I mean, when you apply that to everything else, and we'll get into it later, but you start to be oh, what else can I do this with? Mm-hmm. And this is why, I think one of the unique things about the podcast and about the blog and just us is we try and use similar approaches to other things that other guys might be very, how maybe you'd say, hyper fixate on, or something that they are obsessed with. Obviously we're all three of us are nerds. Spencer and MJ, you guys built the computer. MJ, you helped me build, or you practically built my computer, and it all starts with going, okay, well, what do you want to do with your computer? And mm-hmm. Okay, well, I want to play these video games. I don't want it to be slow, blah, blah, blah. And that requires certain things. And whenever I talk to other people, and we've mentioned this before with episodes on menswear evangelism and getting people into it, but by making it frame in that kind of context, people I think get into it more. And I would never have thought about that unless I got into menswear and I go, okay, well, when I'm buying a Star Wars action figure, I don't want something with like no articulation because that's dumb as hell. But I want to be able to move the hands and arms, and so I'm like, okay, well, I need that kind of action figure. So it's the same thing with, I want a sport coat with 3 roll 2 and has soft shoulders or whatever, patch pockets. It's kind of the same thing. So overall, attention to detail is like one of the biggest and most the simplest things that getting into menswear, fashion, what have you, can teach you. But if we get to the kind of more progressive, or at least the kind of more labor focused aspects of it, those details come with artisan craft. And I feel like that's a big thing where you don't just take things for granted anymore, and it's just things, you finally see why certain items are the price that they are. And I guess it kind of reframes what is considered expensive, or whether something is overpriced versus just a big price tag.
Yeah. And
like
that that's,
go ahead.
It's also a big part of buying things that last, because like I all three of us kind of have gotten into that mindset of like not necessarily cost per wear, but those items with the big price tags. It's like it's worth it because of how long of a lifespan you can get out of it.
Yeah, it's in order to get that lifespan, right? Things need to be made a certain way. Things need to have a certain amount of quality materials. And I know that quality is such a buzzword, and it's really hard to quantify. But it's just like a well-made item with a good, not necessarily hard-wearing fabric, but just a fabric that is durable, or just, I don't know, like at the very least it's not cheap, or it's not flimsy, and all of that kind of stuff really kind of plays into a little bit of like at least kind of the political views I have, or just like the progressive focus on like on craft and labor. Like, we need to preserve this, like we don't need fast fashion. I mean, that's kind of like the biggest example of it. I know Derek has talked about the ires of fast fashion and how it affects everything, and even in terms of like thrifting and vintage clothing, right? We're gonna have a moment where at the thrift store you're not gonna be able to find relatively well-made items for affordable prices. It's gonna be full of fast fashion. It's like it's gonna be cheap clothes that will fall apart at the thrift store.
It's so sad. It's already happening.
Yes, everything there is like Forever 21, H&M and whatever. And I think a lot of people are, they mainly talk about the prices, right? Where it's kind of funny where like these things are like, we've been cannibalizing the past, where like Forever 21 shorts that would have cost like $10 back in like 2014 are, I guess, vintage now, or like, obviously the current stuff, they don't make those anymore. And so like now they're being sold for like, 5 to 10 times their price. You go on Depop or whatever, and like there's that whole these leopard print shorts from 2010 is like almost $100 now on on Depop or whatever.
It's crazy.
People talk about that, but yeah.
Well, no, it's crazy seeing, because it's like we've been buying vintage clothes for like over a decade now. I haven't really touched like mall fast fashion stuff in about that long. But it's like I see people online who are like nostalgic for, it's like, oh man, remember in like 2013 when it's like H&M and Zara used to be good? And I remember like back then I was like, wow, this sucks. This feels bad. This feels like it's gonna fall apart.
It's a race to the bottom, right?
But like, now it's like, I guess that's preferable to what you have now, I guess.
Yeah, and so it's like in that race to the bottom, I think it's helped me kind of like see the value in invest. I mean, I guess it's hard to say investing because you're not trying to resell it later, but just kind of like just putting the money into what it's worth, and like compensating people fairly. Like, in order to get a well-made tie, you have to pay the material for it, and we could argue about like what exactly is the right price, because there's a lot of brands out there that have definitely increased their price over the years, and it's about the same as it was before, and other makers do it and whatever. But yeah, it's kind of like how I am dubious of a $20 tie, or I guess less, $20 or less, that's not pre-owned or whatever. Like, I think when you see videos of people like making ties and like the materials and like printing silks and everything like that, like, oh yeah, I can see how this is a thing. And and it's not necessarily about calling it like a luxury. I think that's kind of like what most people assume it is. And it's weird that quality is a luxury now. You know what I mean? Like that,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that mentality. Before, I mean, we've owned vintage ties. They're fucking still here. Like they're
Yeah.
made well. The
I have
material
stuff
is
from
good.
over 100 years ago, and it's like, yeah, sometimes there's like fraying around where you knot it, but it's like
It's still there. Like
it's
it's
still
not
there.
like it's not fucking being torn apart. The threads aren't coming
Yeah.
like loose or whatever. And so it's like it's crazy how we've moved away from that. And so like that's kind of informed how I think about clothing and manufacturing and labor. And I don't mind, I don't spend, I don't buy $120 plus ties very often. But when I see one and I really like it and I want to buy it, like I'm like, okay, well at least it's going somewhere that I can, that kind of like makes sense.
I mean,
And a
it's
lot of those
crazy to
places
me.
are, yeah.
Oh, sorry, finish your
No, I was
thought.
gonna say no. It's like I think it's just a lot of it is just like these are artisans, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, a lot of clothing is handmade. Most clothing is handmade. It's just how much you pay that person to make it by hand
Hmm.
and everything like that. And so, people are definitely not getting the they're not getting their due, and it's just kind of weird. Where like when menswear is like tied to like capitalism and all that kind of stuff, where we are literally invoking cheap labor. It doesn't sit right with me. Like I don't know. I think it's good to champion, the true artisans and everything who make not just the ties, but like the shirt makers and like suits and everything like that. What
Well,
were you saying,
yeah.
Spencer?
I just it blows my mind the way I see people who are into fashion but not into fashion in the same way that we are talk about it online. Where it's
Yeah,
like
what
they
do you
love
mean?
fast fashion because it's like they want to buy something and then wear it once and then never wear it again. Like I've seen people,
Oh, I see what
when
you're
you
saying,
get into
yeah.
the ethical discussions of like fast fashion, people will be like, "What? Do you want me to wear the same outfit for like years?" It's like, yeah, or it's like you don't have to wear the same outfit, but like, why wouldn't you want to do that? I
Yeah,
don't
or
know,
just
like
wear it with other things.
I feel like people who think that way don't love their clothes in the same way we do. Because I love my shirts, I love my sweaters, I love my jeans, I love my shoes, but there's people who just love wearing things. I don't know how they think about it. It's weird. It's
I
like they love getting photos of themselves taken. I guess.
I think
Yeah.
I think because they don't look at it as having like a goal or like
Yeah.
a something to fulfill a goal. Because like I don't remember if you've talked about it on the podcast before, but I know specifically Spencer mentioned a instance where he was giving, or he was asked for, like, I think it was shoe advice or something like that.
Yes.
And the guy basically said, well, I wasn't planning on spending more than like $30.
Yeah, I
And
was giving him like a bunch of things where it's like, oh, here's some, Alan Edmonds online, or if you're willing to spend a little bit more, Grant Stone, or all these other like brands. And he was like, oh man, I was hoping I wouldn't have to spend more than $30. I'm like, I don't know. That's the other thing. We talked about it a little bit, but I feel like knowing about clothes has taught me so much about supply chains in general. And yeah, like how much items should reasonably cost. Because, I know dye workwear gets on this a lot, but you see a lot of people who are, attempting a kind of populist move of saying it's like, no sweater should cost more than, $20, or they kind of apply like, Nike style, like, price gouging to everything, where it's like, I mean, that's not true, but also like Nike's like should cost as much as they do, but they should just be paying the people that make them more.
yeah,
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it goes down to. I wrote that too. Where I was like the answer is increasing income for people, like salaries,
Yeah.
wages.
And it's like, yeah, like I said, that's applied to other things where it's like now I see something like a kitchen utensil or like a piece of furniture
Yes,
or whatever in a
absolutely.
store. And I'm like, how is it that cheap? Like, that's probably not a good sign.
Yeah, yeah. It's so weird. And also, like, I remember, like, I think it was either Dye Workwear or maybe Put This On, or could be even Ethan Newton. And they probably all said it too, where it's like when you buy something that you've like saved up for or that is going somewhere that's good, it makes you feel good a little bit.
Yeah.
I kind of like, it's kind of like when you buy, like, we all don't really love fast food, but like when you get like a good meal and like and there's like a little story behind the restaurant or whatever, and I'm sure all of that's like marketing at some day too, but like it feels kind of nice. And sometimes you do, like, we have friends who like work at coffee shops or whatever, and it's like, yeah, it's like a $10 latte or whatever, but like I like the coffee and I like the people, I like get going here, so like why not support that?
yeah.
Um, and I know this could be another big topic later on. I know we're like harping on this whole thing, but like I also, my hot take is I don't think that fashion needs to be fashion style, I guess, is not a like it's not a social like need, you know what I mean? Like you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to do that. And like one of the
No.
things is like, one of the like I saw this whole thing about like dupes, and we're definitely going to talk about dupe culture in the next year as a little mini topic, but it's like people are like, oh, like you don't have to buy the $100 boots. Like if you want to just have a little boot and have some fun, like buy the $40 one, and, like wear it forever. Wear it, no, wear not wear it forever. Wear it as long as you like the trend. I'm like, no, like that's not the
Mm-hmm.
answer here. Like if you don't think you want to wear it, then don't buy it. Or if you're gonna buy it, maybe that should factor into how often you wear it. You know,
Oh
like you
yeah.
Yeah.
don't just buy it because of like whatever, you know. And we've had plenty of topics. We've done the recent revision of the how we buy things, but it's like we try not to buy anything unless we're really expecting to like wear it forever. And
Yeah.
whenever I sell something that I don't wear, I feel bad. Like I feel like, oh shit, I should never have gotten this. I feel like that, like it's not just regret. It feels like I let myself down, which is
Mm-hmm.
why
Yeah.
I try and sell it to like friends because like I know that they're gonna enjoy this whole thing. But like yeah, I mean I feel like menswear has taught me like to kind of focus like supply chain stuff, labor, artisan stuff, and not just within menswear, or it's like adjacent things like watches, knitwear, fucking cocktails or whatever. But just like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stuff that we interact with is being conscious of where the money goes, and all this kind of stuff, all the work that people put into these things, and the lifespan of the product, and trying to limit as much waste as possible,
Mm-hmm.
um and I feel like on that note, I feel like just kind of having an open mind about like I guess expression, right? Like kind of like I mean, I think the difference is if we look at fashion differently, as instead of like being like a participatory like in trends or whatever, and being more about like what we want to express, not only should our stuff be good, but like that just kind of puts a more of an importance of the clothes that we buy, you know? And when it comes to me about that, there's no like real true right or wrong unless we're talking about like a uniform or whatever. At least being into menswear has taught me there really isn't a right or wrong thing, because if the metric is if it looks good, a lot of things look good, you know? Like it's not like, oh, you can't wear those fatigues with loafers. Well, this guy looks fucking sick, and it's a picture of Ethan Newton or something. And like why can't you wear that, you know? Like fashion is about experimentation and finding what you like, how it applies to like the references that you've made, these connotations in your relationships to different parts in culture and society, and how your clothing either plays into or subverts that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that menswear oddly enough has taught me. That's why it's so weird to how people like get reinforced in this very like conservative Western focused like suit and tie masculine ideal, when like there's so much that I love about menswear that's not even like crazy, that still is very expressive and experimental, and can get into feminine or subversive or casual while still using like a jacket and a leather shoe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's made me very open-minded about art and expression in general, which I
Yes.
appreciate. I don't know. Now at this point, I don't. Sometimes I like to play the grouchy guy, who shits on everything, the
I
pooper.
love shitting.
Oscar.
But
Oscar
yeah,
the Pooper.
Oscar the pooper. But no, I don't know. I really do believe that it's like, hey, if you're trying to do something with your art, no matter what it is, if it's sculpture, if it's painting, if it's music, if it's whatever. If you're I don't know, if you have something that you're trying to accomplish, and you set it out, even if it's not something that I would have done or something that I love, I still think it's valid. I still think it's wonderful that we're out there creating art, because I think it's maybe it's the most beautiful thing that humans do.
No, I definitely I feel like I don't know, maybe you guys felt this way too, but like I feel like the pandemic really like exacerbated that idea. Like I'm single now, and so a lot of people like I'm going on dates, and people ask me about menswear, and there's always this kind of like script, because I'm obviously I talk about it on the podcast, I talk about it when people interview me, and the biggest part is that the pandemic, for a lot of people, like it kind of made them reinforce how clothing is societal, and it's like it's only like, okay, well, it's like an occasion focusing, and we're gonna get into that. But I always tell them like, well, I'm home. I'm not doing anything. It basically I'm a blank slate. So clothing to me is a way for me to fill that up. It helps me fill up life with, as you say, it Spencer, with art, with creativity. And it's not like a paint. I mean, it's not the same thing as a painting, but it's something that I can just do that makes something happen that I don't have to do. I think that's kind of like where art, the idea of art lies. If my day or my body's a blank canvas and no one's gonna say anything because I'm working from home, why not fill that with clothing? And obviously that's one reason why the past 4 years have been about diving into that philosophy and how we interact with it and how expression informs all of our choices. But in doing so, it has helped me gain such an appreciation for art and culture and just different mediums. Like I used to obviously music was such a big thing for me and is and a lot of my philosophy on menswear is adapted from how I felt about composing and film scores and classical music or whatever. But now I'm able to put those two together and like, okay, I've like expanded my ideas of art and like not just liking it because like, oh, I like these shapes, but like now I know like why I love like the mid-century abstract expressionism of shapes, because I like the history that came behind it. Kind of like how I used to not like the 70s, but then like seeing like what that means and how it's transformed from like the ivy and the mod of like the 60s, and then going to this very flamboyant thing and getting an appreciation for leaning into like being a little bit sexy. Like there's a lot of these connotations and like art history rhetoric that play into menswear that goes into this kind of like cycle of me just opening my mind to so much stuff. And I feel like I enjoy museums way more now. I enjoy seeing different types of music. I enjoy, obviously, I think I've expanded my taste in movies and what I see, not just in the more free time I get to hang out with Spencer, but just because my mind has just been primed for it after all this time of getting into menswear. And I think that that's just been really, really, really cool. That I feel like if I wasn't to menswear, I might not have thought about this unless I took an art class or whatever, or was around people. But I for some random reason menswear gets there. But I guess based on our Discord, I feel like a lot of people have also moved in that direction where like there's a lot of people say like, oh, I appreciate maybe not art, because a lot of guys in the Discord already like art. And even if they like art, probably more than us, I feel like they've kind of gotten an appreciation for like high fashion and designer, which is I guess even closer to art in that way than classic menswear. And I think same thing goes for me. I can see the connotations to like an art, like true art, as opposed to just like clothes that you wear to cover your body or like being vintage. So I think that's also one reason why I get along with some people on TikTok who are into like designer clothing, because I can kind of see this like kind of kinship and camaraderie over overall philosophy, even if our expression is a little bit different. On that note, I will say I feel like not an appreciation, but like more empathy toward like marginalized people, I feel like has also come from being into menswear, because if everything is about expression, like these are people who have to struggle every day to kind of express who they are and then play into these boxes that society has kind of like created for them or has restricted them, and seeing some people either again subvert these expectations by doing this stuff, or like play into it by wearing these things that are coded as masculine and feminine through menswear and other forms of fashion. It's also incredibly eye-opening and really cool. Like I feel like I've always tried to be an ally for for a long time, but I feel like through fashion or through menswear has helped me get a better idea about it, and I think it's cool when a lot of people, who are queer have like messaged me and like be like, like they want to look more in some way. And I'm like, oh, well, and I tell them, okay, well, just like Marlon Brando, like that's really sick, like if you want to just look, really masculine, and it's like, and why, like there's this whole history behind it, and then they kind of do that or whatever, or they just say that they've like really gathered that and like they found their style in vintage because it helps them express this identity of who they are. And I think that that's really cool. And obviously we do a very small version of that by cosplaying as ranch hands or bootleggers or Ivy League professors, but it's doing that first and then seeing how it can play directly into people's gender expression or overall expression in general has been so eye-opening and really cool. Because fashion can be authoritarian. I mean, that's kind of the truth of it, right? There's there's uniforms, there's dress codes, there's elitist ways to separate people based on what you wear, and menswear itself can be elitist. and at the very least classist. With no brown in town, right, or whatever. Like there's a lot of that kind of stuff there, and so instead of playing into it, fashion and menswear has been really cool to kind of change that, to kind of recontextualize and appropriate it in a way that is positive and everything.
I mean, I like how appreciative menswear made me just for other cultures in general, like even outside of like art or expression or something like that. It makes me really genuinely sad when I see people online who see a different culture that does something different than they're used to, and they're like, just their reaction is like, oh, this is wrong, or oh, this is primitive and evil, and they must change and be more like us. Because I'm like, that's sad. That's a really sad way to view the world, and not just like look at all the variety and all the diversity out there and be like, wow, what an incredible planet Earth. What do they say on Comedy Bang Bang? The little blue marble we call Patoink or something. What is it?
I think that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but it's really beautiful out there. All the things that people do and eat and create and how they live. I think that's really cool. And menswear, I think, was one of the ways that got me into it, because obviously it's like we're primarily into Western clothing. I'm very into quote unquote American or Americana style or whatever.
Yeah, I think we're the most into that kind of. I mean, I dress like apparel arts. You've got this like
this
double
mid-century
RLs,
American
yeah.
But
And
I see other forms of cultural dress, and I'm never like, ugh, why aren't they wearing a fucking suit or tie or whatever? I'm like, this is so cool, and I love diving into the history of that. Like that was kind of how I, obviously, I not to brag or anything, but I've always been a little bit of a wokester who has always kind of appreciated other cultures.
You, white man?
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's one of the first ways that I really started diving into it, like was seeing other forms of cultural dress, and from there it's it's just I think the variety out there is so beautiful.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think MJ has been really cool to wear his barong that his partner has given him with like tailoring. I think that's like super cool, and that's in my head. That's like something I kind of want to get into as well. Although I'm probably infinitely more pickier about my barong, just because I in my head I have this idea. Whatever. If there's any Filipino artisans listening to this and who would want to make me barong, I will also pay you for it. We just need to work together and we'll fucking make this shit.
All the Philams in like LA area, we know you're
hell
here.
yeah. Come on, listen to this fucking dumbass podcast. But no, like I remember, MJ and I went to this. Our friend Katie is an associate producer on this documentary called Be Not Afraid, which is about initially was about a hate crime to this Filipino family, but has kind of evolved into the story of community and changed, and it's still ongoing. They just got their second round of funding or whatever it is. But I met a couple of people there, and there was a Filipino journalist, and he was looking at my fits, and he goes like, oh, this is really cool because it reminds me of like Filipinos in the 30s and how they would like wear like tailoring, and it meant a lot for like these like we call it the it was a type of the Marc Chevalier mentioned it. It was like the Macintosh suits, the very 30s, drape cut but short, in the nipped waist with wide legs. Like they're very good at swing dancing, or appropriate for swing dancing. But he told me like, oh yeah, it kind of reminds me of like that kind of stuff, and also like your casual stuff reminds you of like Larry Itliong and the Delano Grape Strike stuff. And I'm like, yeah, like there's a lot of like, even though a lot of my references are like white Americans, I am very aware that there are at least some photographs of people who are like me who wore this stuff back then. And he also mentioned like one of my fits where I wore a tie around my waist for my big gaucho pants because I lost some weight, a little skinty. But he was like, "Oh, is this a nod to?" Yeah, is this a nod to Filipino like indigenous sashes? I'm like, no, I have not heard of that, but I would love to wear like a cool sash as like a cummerbund thing with like wide leg pants as like a way to kind of play into that. And I still have to look more into it. And obviously it's funny because the store I think that has it is in West Covina, which has a big Filipino community. But like that seems so cool, and I feel like menswear has taught me to kind of do that. Where people would wear in Western culture, you wear rings and you wear Western ties to show where you came from, but like there are opportunities to wear Western clothing, tailoring, whatever, and then kind of introduce these elements to it, that I'm very intrigued. It's an ongoing journey for this like expression thing, and I think that that's something so cool that menswear has taught me, or at least has like afforded me that opportunity. And again, as someone who's Asian American, I feel like as over time, as all this stuff kind of comes together with labor, with culture, and everything, it helps me become more aware of my expression, not just in terms of formality or even cosplay, but like what does it mean as an Asian American to wear this stuff? We've obviously had the episode about being Asian American with our friends Algis and Jason, but it's again, like I said, it's an ongoing conversation, and like we know what that means and what it looks like, and I'm just excited for it. It's to kind of quote Spencer, really, it's kind of boring to kind of be so oppressive about it, and I just don't get how you can be into this rich, history of menswear where yes, it is Western focused, but there's still a lot of people who have worn it who were not, white or Anglo, and to kind of be a part of that tapestry, and thankfully now with the people I've met, it's also very clear that we're not the only ones, and it's it can feel like that when we're just here in LA in our little bubble, but like around the world there's so many people. Mm-hmm. And I guess on that note, we can talk about how menswear on a broader scale has helped us see the importance of like community in general, and like having friends. Like that's kind of
having friends, having hobbies and stuff like that. And obviously, I'm sure if I wasn't into menswear, I would still end up having hobbies. But
and friends,
I feel like menswear has led to so many. Yes, and friends, I guess, has led to so many of them. It's kind of just given me those things, which is so nice.
No, I mean. It's what's really funny about that this particular subtopic is, traditionally, right? Like your clothing was for your workplace, and as we've kind of, it's just kind of has changed, and the digital culture has kind of like almost removed opportunities for friendships. I feel like it's made us all kind of like dive deeper into it, like we all like, you starting a film club to see your friends, to do this, you do AMC A-list, trying to make trivia every week, stuff like that. And kind of the importance of making these things, these relationships happen, and seeing how that informs your clothing has been such an eye-opening experience for me as well. And I wouldn't say that it's forced me to change how I wear. In fact, I feel like it's made me dive into what it means to be me, because my friends are such a positive force and everything, where it's another blank canvas. So it really is like about like what you want to wear. And I think what menswear taught me is like those things, friends, hobbies, community, whatever, that has a more profound relationship on your style than the job that you have, and that might be a new thing in the history of the world, but it's definitely something that I like to see moving forward. And I never would have thought about that without menswear. It's weird for me to think of like, if I never got into this, like would I just wear like an H&M suit like forever? I guess that's one way to keep your fast fashion for as long as possible, but like I would never have thought about literally any of this, or maybe like how much my friends factor into like my style, or maybe it would be the negative version where I just dress like my friends do or whatever,
Yeah, I think it's going off of the H&M suit. I feel like if you've gone that far, the only way is to keep going than to just stop there anyways. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, again, like you said, you would have just ended up not being into fashion, instead of just like staying within like the mall brands or a fast fashion like wardrobe, I guess.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Like I feel like I love my friends more because of menswear. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's just a weird reflection on it, but like I feel like that's just so interesting to me. But like,
well, because I think also the friends you have, even that aren't into menswear or fashion or whatever, are still like like you don't get bullied for it, or like you know what I mean, they'll still say like you look nice, or like that they like your style even though they're not in it, so they're still encouraging in a way for you to keep doing it, rather than to Ethan's doing his weird. Well, maybe they do say weird menswear thing, but it's like in like.
I think they actually do say that. Every time I walk in with a fedora, I'm like, "What's up, guys?" They're like, "Oh boy, look at this guy."
but like, in a good way, right? Not in the.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well.
I mean, it's like I had again we had the whole episode of standing out. Like I had a friend who would wear like a Lugia costume out in public. Like who the fuck cares? I guess I'm
Exactly.
doing that now. Like that's me. You know. I bet you that person has grown out of it. I mean I haven't seen that friend in a long time. You know they were more of a high school friend, but it'd be funny if they saw me now and they'd be like, "Oh, Ethan's weird," and I'm like. But no, I think like to see how much a positive force can affect how you dress and how much you get into it has been so. It's been a great thing for me, and I try and do that. I mean, I don't have like an official community, I would say, other than the Discord, but like I try and like be inclusive with a lot of friends, and people like James or other people who have like to become good friends while being into menswear has been like a really good side effect of it all, and like seeing the same guys pop up and like, hey, we could like hang out outside of it being a fashion event, and then it becomes a thing where people assume it's a fashion event because we're all hanging out in one place, but it's actually just us getting a drink wearing suits and ties. But like I think that's really cool because if menswear's taught me anything, or if menswear showed me that it is very similar to like I don't know, fucking like Anime Expo or furry cosplay stuff, where like there are communities based around this like mutual interest in this kind of subculture or interest or whatever, and like that's cool,
Yeah.
and it really emboldens you to make these choices and to kind of do that stuff. Whenever we walk out to like Little Tokyo and we see people like wearing like Harajuku styles, but like they're here, or even like Lolita, or even just straight up cosplaying out in public, like it's just cool to see like them all being there. Like they're not relegated to only dressing up at home. They can be out there doing this thing together,
With
and I think that
friends, yeah.
that's really really cool. It's like it's a continuous loop of like positive feedback, and we've talked about inspiration and like seeing other friends wear this thing, and makes me want to wear this thing, and or it reinforces like, oh, maybe I should buy that, or I should try that for myself because clearly MJ dresses like me, so if he likes this thing, maybe I'll like it too. That actually works in the opposite because you do that for me, but that's fine. Um, but I will say that maybe the other thing that being into menswear has kind of like taught me, or like has exposed me to, is kind of being aware of how much I want to participate in society. Like, how do we do it actually? Like this kind of critical question on how it actually plays into how we express ourselves when we're outside. You know, like, is this even right? But I mean, I guess the good thing about being post-pandemic is that like these like social conventions have definitely like changed and they're not as relevant anymore. So this idea of like is this a pod like a the correct way to participate doesn't really play into it, but it's still there because menswear is built on those societal norms.
Expectations.
Yeah, these expectations, absolutely. And so like when you dress out there, like is it like what is it saying about us, and even though I am fully aware, or I'm fully comfortable wearing a suit and tie to go to the grocery store, like like I'm still aware that some people might think that like, oh, I'm trying to be this like dandy upstart guy, even if I know that that's false. But like I'm not ignorant of that fact, and so but like that makes me go and like, okay, there's other ways to show that I am not that. I mean, body language, I think, is a big thing, right? Like
Yeah.
that's like you can just smile and look like a nice person while you're not walking around with your chin turned high and avoiding eye contact with the norms. You can be like, give a little wave and give a little joke, say hi to a baby or
Hello.
whatever.
Hello, baby.
What's up, baby?
Hello, little
Uh,
one.
I am your father.
Whoa! You should just start telling babies that when
Yeah,
you see
That's
babies in public and you're like,
impossible.
I'm
Yeah.
actually your father.
yeah. Hey,
Your
you looking for a
family's
new
lying
dad?
to you.
Name's Liam. Shout out that guy. He has a whole thing about like being at a supermarket, and like there's one where he meets a kid that's really really good. But yeah, I mean just like as like thought experiments, and believe me, I want to get into some thought experiments. I'm single now. My name's Liam.
I'm single
Heard
now,
it
I'm
the first
Liam.
time.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's been really cool to like think like to kind of entertain these like hypotheticals. I think even if it gets annoying sometimes in Discord, I feel like it's nice to think about. Okay, like, oh, these different social circles, these different rooms that we walk into. Like I think it's just really cool to think about what that means for our style and how we play into it. I mean, one thing that I'm sure I've mentioned before is that because everything is a blank canvas and plans are seldom set in stone unless I make them, I have a lot of control about what I look like to the grocery store. I could go to the grocery store right now, or I could wait till I shower and wear a fucking suit, and nothing about my day changes. You know what I mean? And so being just conscious of that, and of being in society, and playing into, again, all the other stuff we've talked about before with like expression, being inspired or having friends who are queer and marginalized, like all of that kind of just plays together and makes fashion in such a more interesting medium for creativity. And in that way, again, like kind of similar, like it helps me understand people's insecurities, and it doesn't even have to be like, if you are queer, and like, oh, I'm this, but I want to wear this. I also get it now when like regular guys are like, I can't wear that. Like I get it, this is a big world. It's a lot of stuff going on here, and I also get that not everyone sees it as positively, or as, I guess, as a positive challenge like we do. But I feel like but all of this together helps me communicate with these guys a lot more.
Yeah.
Like it's, they go, oh, but nothing matters. I go, yeah, nothing matters, dude. Like, let's have some fun. Yeah. Like I remember I was talking to a friend where he's like, like, it's like, oh, like I want to get into Menswear, but like I feel, I don't have a Menswear social media account. I'm like, oh yeah, you don't have to. Like, this whole, I mean, I know that we all do it because we're proud of it. And he goes like, oh, well, that's interesting. Like, because you're proud, like, why would you take a picture? Like, why can't you just like keep it private? I'm like, well, you can. Like, there's nothing. No one says you have to take a fit pic. But it's kind of like you baked a cake, and I'm like, this is fucking sick. I'm gonna post this on my story, Like, I want to share something about it. And he goes like, oh, well, what if the cake's bad? I'm like, well, are you proud of the cake? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, why not take a picture? I don't know. Like, and I even told him, like, it's also fun to, like, to document, like, your progress. Like, even if it's bad, like, you might not even know it's bad. It might be good now. They might be bad later because, like, relatively speaking, your current fits are better. But like, you still were proud of it, I might not like uphold it and be like, hey, dress like this old bad picture. But I'm at least going into like, oh, this has taught me something. I guess on that side note, I feel like it's helped me have a more positive like self view of myself, like Menswear. Like where like, oh, it doesn't have to be. It's not a big deal if you brick a fit. Like, who cares? Like, it's fine. It's kind of like music, where like if you write like what matters is that you wrote a song. Like, yeah, it might be funny to talk about later. But yeah, communicating all this stuff to people to help them get into Menswear, I think, has been so eye-opening for me, because I understand the struggles that they might be going, or these like kind of apprehensions that they have. And I took that friend to Suit Supply, and again, we're gonna talk about Suit Supply in the future because he looks so good. And I'm like, dude, and what's funny is that he was even like, when we were taking the photo, like, he's kind of leading to like the slouch, like he's even like, he's having his hand on like the counter, his like legs are crossed, and I'm like, hey dude, like you're doing it. Doesn't it feel so good? Like, no offense to your skinny chinos and your whatever, but like it just doesn't look the same when you do that. And it, like, that was so cool. Like, and I wish I could be everyone's friend, because like I was able to be there and encourage him, and to like take all these photos of him and be like, I love this, and like positively affirm him. And I feel like seeing that importance, and kind of like how, like, when you're teaching a kid how to ride a bike, you're like, yeah, son, you got this, or whatever. Like, to kind of have that same wholesome approach does so much wonders for people. And Menswear has definitely helped me taught that to me, I should say. And like, when I went to Alfargo's, like I said, like, you put on something cool, you're trying on something, and maybe, this tartan jacket's crazy, and then you get like Elias or Stefan walk by and be like, sick, you should buy that. Like, and yeah, obviously they run the show, but also like having that positive affirmation from someone who is in the know, and who is also a stylist person. It's like as if like John Williams would be like, hey, that's a good piece. I'd be like, holy shit, like,
yeah,
hell yeah, and it's just so cool to kind of be there, and again, like, Menswear has been so much more than just putting on like clothes to not be naked.
And I feel like it does, we talk about how expensive and sometimes, inaccessible or classist menswear can be, but also, to be honest, I feel like it does have an incredibly low barrier for entry. You just have to be a little bit resourceful. And that's the great thing about it. You can put together of everything, like everything you're wearing is like thrifted. spend no more than like $50 on a whole outfit. And you could still have, if you do it right, you could still have like a bespoke tailor or someone who's like really big in the menswear scene, like, give you props.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like if you're truly into menswear, you're not going to be, I'd hope you not be like classist about it. I feel like it would be very silly because again, I think we recognize just the value of styling and creativity of putting together an outfit. Where it's not like, oh man, you got this from Goodwill and not from like the Armory or whatever. It's just like, wow, you did a really cool outfit of all thrifted stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one time I thrifted this DB suit. This is like years ago, and even Mark Cho responded like, "That's looking good." I'm like, "Thanks, Mark Cho."
Yeah.
Like that's cool.
Did he say that? He said his full name.
Thank you, Mark Cho.
Yeah. Everyone knows what where that intonation I get, right? Is this whole thing where Will Arnett goes, "Thanks, phone." Like, anyway, content directly for your mobile device. That was ahead of its time. He was predicting CISO, right?
Mm.
Actually, that's not CISO. Quibi, I guess.
Quibi.
That is
Yeah.
creepy.
But I think it's on that note too. Like, I feel like menswear has taught me the value of like self-critique, and not in like a self-conscious way, but just to be introspective. Like, it encourages me to be introspective about my expression and everything. What does it mean to be good, and especially with other things? I feel like I've become a much better writer. That the jury's still out there, but like a much better composer and photographer by being into menswear, because if everything is really that blank canvas, I keep saying it, but like, the opportunity is there, so I have to really think about, okay, what do I want this to look like? Like, I feel like my photography has gone from being, I mean, I was always into like this kind of photojournalistic stuff, but there's something about my latest stuff that feels way more photojournalistic than ever before, because I know what I want it to look like, and I'm much more aware, and just like how I've, like, my idea of a well-dressed guy doesn't mean a navy suit with like a spread collar shirt. Now it could be like, oh, what if it's navy with flannel or blah blah blah. I can be a little more critical. Like, okay, I want to take photos of my friends, but what does that mean? What kind of point of view do I want to have in this photo? Same thing with composing. What do I want this to feel like? What are these emotions? What are these aesthetics and vibes, design choices, etc.? And that can sound like anxiety inducing, and it can be, but it's also this positive challenge. It's so cool, like, to have that positive challenge of making whatever a good outfit is, and translating that to literally everything else is so cool, and it makes me more intrigued to get into other things, like to get into cooking and to get into writing poetry, like this other way of creating this kind of fun, surreal narrative aesthetics, but through words is so cool to me. But also, as other people have said too, like getting into other stuff like watches, or getting into collecting art, or buying furniture, and like having your whole space, these things about you kind of express your taste and who you are. Like, menswear has really opened that world to me.
Yeah.
It can be collection hobbies, it can be expressive hobbies. There's a lot of other stuff, and I feel like that's just been so cool. Maybe the downside is now we need to make infinitely more money.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need
in order
infinite
to
money,
do that.
please.
Yeah. How
Give
do
me
I
the
turn on
infinite
that?
money glitch.
Yeah. The Sims or GTA.
Yeah.
GTA.
I'm gonna type in the code Rosebud over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little Sims
Yeah,
4
okay,
reference
Mr.
for everybody. And also maybe
Yeah.
Sims 3 and Sims 2 and 1.
Orson Welles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, and of course that also plays into like budgeting things, and also just like being intentional with like our money and our time. Like, what do we want to do? I guess overall, if we just wind down now as we approach the hour here, like, menswear has been such a positive force in my life. It's really opened my mind to so many things, and to be a much more empathetic, expression forward, open-minded person. And I can't imagine how people can go the other direction.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense to me,
I mean, I don't know. I feel like
yeah.
we joke a lot about how menswear isn't a sickness that will ruin your life, but it's made my life better. Thank you, menswear.
A sickness.
Thank you for my sickness.
Yeah, please. And and I think so many people that we've interacted with have kind of said the same thing, and maybe I mean I feel like our Discord has been such a great place for this where we can see people's like progress and seeing how people have gone from being maybe a bit more not conservative in their dress to being open-minded and like experimenting with new things and paying more attention and being experimental. I think that that's so cool, and I hope that other people can kind of get into that as well. And I feel like when you look at the current, vibe of menswear, it is like that. You know what I mean? Like I feel like, Alfargo's in New York and seeing all the guys in like Japan and London, like it really has become this really great place. And obviously the work's not done. You're always gonna have a couple of bad apples in there, but I'm very positive for it. And I hope that people continue to kind of dig deep on what it means to be into menswear, because I think at the end of the day, we don't like just a classic menswear. We like expressing ourselves, and we just want to know more about what that means and how to do that properly. And doing that not only builds community, but also helps people get compensated for the time and effort that they use to make these garments. And sometimes people have different challenges and different, have been marginalized where their struggle is different. But, we're all trying to express ourselves in the best way possible. And menswear has just made me more aware of that. And I think that's really, really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Hot take,
Hot take.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank
Hot
you
dogs.
again for
Hot
dogs. Get your hot dogs here. Hot dogs. Have you guys seen that video of like the different like Yankee Stadium hot dog vendors doing the different like they all say their own way of doing it?
Yeah, and then the
That's
last
kind of
one
like
that
menswear in a way.
Yeah. Oh no, Spencer, you
I have a
Spencer,
hole
you
in
got
my
a
sweater.
hole.
Right here, a little armpit hole. It's been
I
there.
want to get some armpit holes. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Why don't we have
Yeah,
holes in
someone
our
tell-
armpits?
Someone tell Katie that I need to get into those holes
There you go.
of their sweaters.
Uh-huh.
it's
Anyway,
more
guys,
like an oval.
yeah, believe you me, because I've seen a few ovals in my lifetime.
Just a
I'm not an
couple.
oval. Yeah, just a couple of them. I would love to see multiple at the same time.
That would be crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for listening and being a part of the Style and Direction podcast. Again, next year, new format. It's gonna be a lot kind of like this with different menswear topics, and we encourage you guys again to DM us when stuff happens. Like if there's something going on during the week and you want us to record it, because we're going to be doing this as like more of like just casual conversations of whatever's on our minds about menswear. Please send us stuff. Feel free to comment and DM us on Style and Direction at Style and Direction, all spelled out on Instagram. Feel free to do that. And of course, if you want to directly do that, go to patreon.com/Style and Direction. $5 a month gives you access to our Discord, where we do try and ask guys what we should talk about.
That's
and
right.
We're definitely going to lean into that way more. We also do cover movies and other bonus stuff every month. And so definitely, join $5 a month at patreon.com/Style and Direction. The $10 tier is nothing special. It is totally optional, but we do get to thank you by name at the end of each episode and blog post. MJ, who are we thanking?
Our Sadcast fanatics are Shane Curry, Philip Gregard, Henrik Wilberg, Mason Ritchie, and Alexander Batten.
We appreciate you guys so much. Again, thank you for being a part of the Style and Direction podcast. It's still going
Thank
strong,
you.
baby. It's a new era.
That's right.
It's a
A
Captain
new
America
wave.
Brave New World.
Yeah.
You can follow me on Instagram at Ethan M. Wong.
I'm at Spencer DSO.
And I'm at Aya MJ.
We appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Okay, I'm gonna pop.
Desktop.